everyone, and welcome to this edition of Notary No House Tuesday Table Talk. I am co-founder Dina Spinks.
And I'm Melissa Watts. And I want everybody to strap on, put on your seatbelt, because we have got a tremendous opportunity for you today. There you go. Buckle up.
Buckle up. Today, we are honored to have with us Richard Law, the founder of SOFI, the Society of Field Inspectors. SOFI is the oldest and largest networking organization in the field service industry. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here with both of you.
So I cannot wait to delve into this topic of field inspection services. But before we do, let me take just a minute to tell you all about Richard Law. I'm going to go ahead and read this because he's got a lot of academic honorary things that I do not want to forget. He has a Bachelor of Science in Engineering Science, a Master's of Aeronautical Science. He has a Master's in Management Science and a Master's in Business Administration. He's also attended the Navy War College and has over 30 years of experience in Virginia as a real estate broker. Having said all of that, Richard, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into field inspection services?
Well, I was in the Navy, as you know, for 20 years, and I retired. And after I left the Navy, I took and worked for some of the defense contractors, Computer Sciences, E-Systems, Raytheon, and did work for the Defense Department. And then I left both those companies and I went to work as a real estate broker. And I also did some field inspections, and I also did some broker price opinions, and I also did some consulting. And I guess when you match all these things together, it leads up to the idea is when you're an independent contractor, you need a backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. And that's what I had. So that's basically where I came from, the Navy, and then as a DoD contractor, and then real estate and other things, including inspections.
Well, Richard, that is quite an impressive resume. Both Melissa and I have looked at your website and the information that you provided for us. And even though we both have performed some field inspections, we didn't really realize just how big the field really, truly is. Now, we have some viewers that have no idea what field inspections are and have never done this type of work. Could you elaborate a little bit on what exactly field inspection services are?
Okay, before I do that, let me go back. And you mentioned a long list of colleges and other places I've done, but I think what I learned a lot in business and how to, start a business, conduct a business, I kind of learned in high school. And we all learn the same thing in high school. And I'm going to tell you a story here that'll explain what I learned. Okay. Back in high school, I had a girl that sat in front of me. Her name was Emily. Emily was very smart and she was gorgeous. And I would ask Emily, how about if we go out on Friday and go to a movie? And she'd go, no, I'm sorry, but we were friends and we always talked, except she would, turn me down for that, dating proposal. Then I'd wait a couple of weeks and I'd ask her again. I'd say, hey, how about if we go out to Cupid's and get a hamburger tonight? Say, no, sorry. But we'd still talk. We'd talk sometimes for 10 or 15 minutes. And we were good friends. And then about 3 weeks later, I learned that she had a boyfriend and that she broke up with him. And I never knew that she had a boyfriend. Okay. So without telling her I knew that, I asked her out again. And I said, how about if we go to the movies on Friday? And she said, great. Which movie are we going to go see? So the point I'm trying to make, and this worked for both notary signing agents and also field inspectors, is never stop asking.
Oh, good. Yeah.
When you call a company and they don't have work for you, ask if you can get in their network. Ask if you can call them back in a week and do that. But keep that process going. Never stop asking. And that's the way you get work. Because it's the same with, Emily, she didn't need me or want me the times I was asking, but later on she did.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out. And it's the same thing with companies. They don't need you maybe now, but they maybe need you later, but you got to keep asking. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
Yes.
And the
That's a
other
good
thing
point.
and the other thing I think I learned in high school was you always need a backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. When the senior prom is coming up and it's months away, but you got to start planning on who you're going to the prom with. If you don't go to the prom, how embarrassing that is, because you can't find a date. So find a date, but always have a backup to the backup to the backup for that prom date. So I just wanted to say that to you. Okay. Okay. So what your question was, something about money, was it?
No, people who aren't familiar with field inspections and have never done this type of work before, could you kind of elaborate and explain what field inspections are?
Okay. Well, field inspections, there's a lot of them. We were talking about that just a little bit earlier, Dina. And there's so many different types. And what they are is they can be very detailed or they can be very brief. Some of the ones that I liked the best were some of the ones you mentioned too. Was something like a business verification. Maybe I could go out and do that 10 minutes on site, maybe take 4 photographs, and that would pay something like probably $45 or $50. Okay. When I was doing those, I was doing other things also. So I would maybe be doing something real estate related, or maybe a broker price opinion. So kind of the more things you can combine in a small area, you become more efficient and you make more money. Okay. And the companies that hire you, they provide the inspection form. Usually they'll provide some training. It might be walk you through the inspection on the phone, maybe send you a video to watch, maybe invite you to a webinar. But there's a lot of stuff that's, very straightforward, common sense type inspections.
I remember the first one I did. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this because I've never had any training. And it was so simple. They sent me a link and the link explained everything. It said, click here and upload your photos. Click here and download a letter that you are to leave at the place of business. And that was it. And it took me all of about, including travel time and everything, it took about 30 minutes and it was $63. So yeah, that worked out well. Well, for the purposes of this interview, now that you've kind of given us a little bit of background about what field inspection services are, let us focus on field inspection services, specifically the 3 main types that you talk about in your book: residential, commercial, and insurance. Can you explain what the difference is in those 3? Because those are the 3 things that people are going to be immediately approached with if they start doing field inspection services.
Okay. I've performed inspections for a couple of decades now. So I've really seen everything that's out there. And I know what they pay. I know how much is involved. And over the years, I've become very, maybe the word is spoiled. Okay. There's some things I like. There's some things I don't like. And as a field inspector, you have choices. In other words, a field inspector, you pick and choose. The inspections I like are the commercial inspections. Insurance inspections are probably second. And the inspections I avoid are the low fee mortgage inspections. Okay. So let me start in the back and go front. Low fee mortgage inspections, some of those today are only paying $3 or $4. A lot of those you're knocking on doors. And in today's world, I don't think you want to be knocking on a door, a residential door, because you never know what's on the other side of a door.
Right.
Going in backyards, fenced backyards, you never know what's in a backyard. So I kind of stay away from anything that's residential. And we really don't list any residential companies in our directory just to kind of keep the inspectors away from them. Okay. So the top group is commercial. And this could be something like a business verification, where you're going out to a business and just really verifying they exist and they look like they say what they're doing. Okay. If it's a real estate office, you'd expect it to look like a real estate office. So that's one type. A draw inspection, where someone is building a new home and the bank will give them money to pay for the construction in 5 draws. In other words, 5 payments. And the inspector is going out there to determine what the progress is in the construction.
Right.
There's things like a collateral inspection where you're just going out to a dealership. Some of the ones I've been to are construction equipment, and you're verifying the equipment is there. If it's not there, where is it? Has it been sold? Is it out on demo? So that's what that type of inspection is. There's so many different types of inspections, and you have those inspection descriptions now, so you've gone through those, I'm sure, and saying that, wow, there's a lot of choices out there.
Yeah.
And field inspections is like notary signing work. You have choices. You're going to find companies you like and companies you don't like. You're going to find tasks that you like and tasks that you don't like. And what you do is you pick what's best for you.
Right.
Well, Richard, a question closely related to what you were just talking about is the big question that everybody wants to know.
Money.
And that is, how much money can I make doing field inspections?
Money, 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 money. You always talk about money. My wife's always talking to me about money too.
I was just talking to my husband about money too.
So how am I going to answer that? Okay. How do I determine, let's say, how much you or how much Melissa would make, doing this? And that's very difficult to tell. Okay. Talking to you on a phone and talking to you here, I know you're both very smart people, that you could probably do very well. Okay. But let me give you an example I was reading today. Wilbur and Oral Wright. You ever heard of those guys?
Yeah.
Okay. They invented the airplane. Okay. They were sons of a pastor. Okay. They did not graduate from high school. After they left high school without a diploma, they fooled around with bicycles. Okay. So if I grew up at that time and if I knew Wilbur and Orville, I would think they weren't going anyplace.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my first guess. And I would have been wrong, very wrong. And I could be very wrong trying to predict how much an individual person could make doing field inspections. Okay. Now, if you look at the statistic further, they sold their company back in 1915 for $1.5 million. And in today's dollars, that's $46 million. Okay. So I don't know. For an individual, I can talk to them and I can get a pretty good idea of whether they will succeed in anything they do in life by what they say and how they say it. But I don't know, talking to a person or getting an email from a person, whether they're sleeping 12 hours a day and watching TV 12 hours a day. So I don't know that. I do watch some of the Mark Wills videos. Do you know Mark Wills?
Yes. Yes.
And if you watch those, you'll see people that are making very large amounts of money. Okay. And they're doing very well. Okay. But then again, I talk to other people that are starting out, and I don't think that they will do as well as the people that are in those videos, because people are different. My Uncle Jake, we all have an Uncle Jake in our family. And, I kind of wonder who brushes his teeth in the morning. Okay. So he wouldn't do well with inspection, door notary work, or just about
Probably not.
anything. Yeah. So, and then the other thing when it comes to money, you take somebody like Warren Buffett. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a billionaire. He's made a lot of money, but 99% of his money that he made was in the time that he passed 60 years old.
Wow.
Okay. So sometimes making money is not in the beginning, but most of it kind of comes near the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take that into consideration. I like to watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watch this YouTube channel called Impact Theory. And he talks about 2 hours and 41 minutes up there, saying that 99% of people watching the video will stay broke. So that's a good video for me to watch. I watched it. I'll probably watch it again a couple times, but you can learn a lot about a business on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And you can learn about the mistakes to be made and the things to do right. Yeah.
Well, I think what we were talking about in terms of the money had a lot more to do with which ones pay the most versus which ones pay the least. Like you said a while ago, you're going to be offered $3 or $4 for some of these mortgage residential type things. But I just have to ask the question, who would do that for $3 or $4? I mean, and what is you said there's the mortgage, the insurance, and the commercial side of things. So which ones of those tend to pay the most money and how much?
Well, it's the commercial. It's absolutely the commercial inspections. They're more interesting inspections. They're safer inspections.
Mm-hmm.
In general, I think the companies that do the commercial inspections are higher quality. Okay. And you want all those things. Usually they don't require you to have any employment, any business type insurance. Okay. All the companies will ask you, we'll run a background check on you. That's standard in the US for all companies, but the commercial companies won't try to charge you for it, make you pay for a background check. And I think the thing that has lured me in the most is just they're more interesting and they pay more. Okay.
Okay.
There's also a way to move up. Okay. There's things like commercial loss control inspections, which are a little bit more technical, where you do have to get some training. Okay. And there you go into places like maybe hotels or restaurants, and you're looking at fire sprinkler systems and commercial cooking equipment, trip and fall hazards, those type things. Okay. And in those areas, you can grow those to much higher levels where you can, with a couple of years of experience, inspection experience, you could be moved to where you make really good money. The gentleman that I got my training from in commercial insurance loss control, he will typically make $2,500 for one inspection, which will take them maybe about 3 hours on site and 2 hours writing up the report. But you don't get there on day one or week one or month one or year one. It takes some building up to get there.
Wow. Yeah.
So no one becomes, experienced and really good overnight. You have to work on it.
Right. Well, I think one good place for everybody to start is with your free book, The 13 Easy Steps to Becoming a Field Service Inspector. So it's got a lot of material in it. Can you give us a quick overview of what that book entails for our viewers?
Well, I think the message that's, if you want to roll up all 13 steps together, the message is if you got to get work as an inspector, and this also applies to notaries also, is you don't sit around and wait for the phone to ring. Okay.
Right.
You put together your elevator pitch, so to speak, your resume, and you start contacting the companies direct and introducing yourself. And you would do that first with an email. I would have a nice resume to send them and email it to them. And if they don't respond to that, then give them a call. And that's the best way to get work. Okay, you got to become like the old Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman.
So, yeah.
You know, they don't get a sale on every door they knock on, but then the vacuum breaks and then they call them and they do get the sale. So,
Right.
Just
but
like
I think
Emily.
that's, say again?
Just reminded me of Emily and her boyfriend breaking up.
Yeah, you just got to keep doing that.
Exactly.
And a lot of inspectors and notaries don't do that. They don't get out there and beat the bushes. They don't, they don't have a nice resume, or maybe it's not directed to what they do. Okay.
Right.
It depends on where you're applying. If you're applying for IBM for a job, you have a nice text written, Microsoft Word written resume, which tells about you, where you worked before, maybe if you've got some educational experience, what that is. Maybe you were a scout leader. Maybe you did voluntary work for the Red Cross. You would include all that in your resume. That's very important. But with field inspections and notary work, the only thing they really want to know is who you are, what you do, and where you do it. And in the case of a notary, it's good to be a member of the NNA, which is a very good organization.
Right.
And you want to get their attention in about 10 seconds, because that's all the time they're going to give you.
True.
So true.
Well,
so true.
And kind of tying into what you were saying about getting your name out there. One of the things that we teach in our marketing course, like you're talking about, is how to market yourself. And one of the things we stress is you need to get your name on as many lists as you possibly can. So, and I've already done this with Sophie, but the Society of Field Inspectors, but membership with the Society of Field Inspectors, a listing there is free. But can you explain to us what the difference is in the free membership, that we sign up for versus a listing in the National Field Services Directory?
Well, the free membership is when you sign up, you go online to joinsophie.com and you fill out an online form. And what we do is we take that information and we put that in our database. Okay. And today our existing database just for inspector members is about 9,450, I believe. And we find companies that we've been working with for decades that like to get that list from us, and they do purchase it from us in a PDF format. And in the PDF format, it's searchable with keywords. So if they were looking for a field rep in Syracuse, they would just do a search on Syracuse, and it would bring up all the field inspectors that cover that area. And it lists all the important information, all their contact information, a list of the type of work they like to do, the area they cover, whether it's just listing a metro area or listing counties. Okay. Experience, if they have experience, they'll often list it there.
Right.
And so the companies have a very good database where they can choose. Okay. And we also provide information on how long they've been a member of Sophie, and also when we last updated information from them.
Right.
So that's important. So it's a nice big database, and it certainly makes it easier for recruiters, and it helps the inspectors out with getting work.
Right.
But never as good as or better than direct contact, calling and asking for work.
Correct. Now, I saw somewhere on your website that for a specific fee, you will mail or send our resume and our information to 80 different companies. Can you explain to us how that works?
Okay. Well, what we do is we, of course, design resumes. Okay. I've been doing that for decades. I've designed more decades for field inspectors than anyone else in the US or anyone else in the world. Okay. And so I really know what works and how to get attention and how to show a person, how to present a person to a company. So I do that. Okay. And then part of that, if they ask for that service, is I can email blast out that resume to the 80 or so companies listed in the directory, telling those 80 companies about that one inspector. Okay. And we call it the email blast. Okay. And I send those out every week. Okay. But then again, it's always best to have that directory too, so that you can keep that, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year direct marketing going on. That's very important. Yeah.
Very, very important. In your book, Richard, you said applied knowledge is power. And that is so true. And not just knowledge, but applied knowledge. People can learn all they want to about field inspections. They can take all the classes, they can sign up with all the companies, but until they actually apply that knowledge, it's not going to do them any good. Sophie offers so much through the university, and I was also surprised to see how much of it is free through the blogs and videos. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, we do a lot there. We have some blogs, we have some Facebook groups. Okay. In fact, I got one Facebook group, which is called Sophie Resumes .gallery. And there I post the resumes up there so that others can see them. What else do? We do, of course, the YouTube channel we have at Sophie.video has a lot of videos up there on how to do the marketing, how to make correct choices when you're talking to a company, things to say, things not to say, mistakes that others have made. Okay. Mm-hmm. I find that Facebook is really great for finding all the mistakes that everyone else is making. You can read about those in the last, and so Facebook is good for that. Sometimes you get some good tips on Facebook, but we kind of do a lot of different things to try to get information out there. You'll also notice that I put my name out there a lot, and I put my phone number out there a lot, and I get a lot of phone calls, and because I like talking to people and answering their questions and getting them on the right track. Sometimes I'll get a sale on that. Sometimes I don't. But either way, I'm helping someone, and sometimes I'm helping them to decide whether that's something they want to do. Okay. For some people, it's a good fit. For other people, it's not a good fit. And so I think that's important. And in today's world, if you don't answer your phone, people don't think too much of your company.
True.
So true.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Sophie was founded in 1992 or 94?
94, I believe it
94?
was. Yeah. Yeah.
So way back in 1994, kind of after you were thrown in the deep end of the pool, so to speak, you saw a real need for two things, really. Number one, a place for field inspectors to post their information and get training, number one. And number two, a place for hiring companies to come to have access to those inspectors, knowing that they have gotten some good training.
Yes.
So thus Sophie was born. And I love how you said your success depends on the decisions you make and execute. I want everybody to hear that again very clearly. Success depends on the decisions you make and execute. And I want to tell you, after Dina and I've had some time this week to spend with Richard, and to talk with him about Sophie, the Society of Field Inspectors. One of the best decisions you can make and execute is to go online and fill out that free membership to have access to a lot of information and connect with Richard Law and the hiring companies that he works with.
Yeah, going back to when we started that back in 1994, I can remember I talked to a field inspector in Texas. How I got her name and number, she had her name and number posted on the window of a foreclosure home. And I called her up and said hello, and I said, I do inspections. And I said, who do you know? And she said, I don't know anybody. And she asked me, I asked her who she knew, and she said, do you know anybody? And she said, you know what we should do is, what she said to me, why don't you start a list of other inspectors? And I said to her, why don't you start the list and send me a copy? And so that's kind of where it ended.
Classic.
And then I got started, okay, and started putting it together. And then it was a question of, do I make membership free or do I charge for it? Mm-hmm. And I says, well, if I make it free, I'm really in control, okay? So if I've got a bad company out there, let's say, that wants to get in my directory, and they're really bad, but they want to give me $5,000, I start thinking, geez, $5,000 is a lot of money. But, then I got back to just do it free for everyone. And then I make the decision as to whether they get in there or not.
Right.
And I do that back in 94, and I do that today. So if you look at field inspection companies, there's probably 4 or 5 times as many that are not listed in our directory, that are in the directory. And we do that purposely because we want to make sure that everyone gets a good ride.
Right, right. Well, Richard, we thank you so much for joining us today. You have just given us some wonderful information about field inspection services. Is there anything else that you would like to add or say before we finish our interview?
Well, I think the most important thing, and I stress that all the time, is the networking part of it. A lot of the notaries and a lot of the field inspectors just don't do that. They don't get down and really get serious about sending out the emails and making the calls. And I even tell people, even if you're working for a dozen companies and you're working 12-hour days, you still need to do marketing. Right. Because when you look at that list of 12, there's probably 2 or maybe 3 that are kind of on the bottom, and you're wondering why you're really still working for them. And so you want to replace them, okay? So what you're doing when you're in business is you're always replacing your weak customers with stronger customers. So that's why if you're working long days, you're still doing some marketing, because otherwise you don't know if there's something better that's out there, and you always want to be looking for the bigger and the better things. Right. And if you don't do the marketing, you don't find that out. And the marketing can be so easy to do. Email first. When I call a company to get work, I would call them up and I'd say, hello, my name is Richard Law. I'm a field inspector. I'm here in the Orlando area and I'm looking for work. Who in your company can I talk to? Mm-hmm. So that says a lot up front. It says I'm an inspector, where I'm at, and I'm looking for work. And then they get me connected with the right person in the company that covers my area.
Right.
And then I start chatting with them and tell them how I can help them and everything. I think the thing I find with a lot of people today is they say too much. They don't take frequent breaks between, one idea and the next, and they kind of rattle on too long. And then the companies don't have a chance to say anything.
Right, right. Well, in other words, spend more time, have your initial spiel ready to go, but then spend more time listening to the needs of the company rather than trying to tell them how wonderful you are. So
Right.
That's exactly right. Okay. And also up at our YouTube video source up there, there's some videos up there to talk about mistakes that inspectors make, how not to do that. I talked to one inspector who had a email. It was something like couchpotato@yahoo.com. And so I said to him, I says, you're not going to get any work. And he said, oh, why is that? I says, you're a couch potato. Couch potatoes
Right.
don't want to work. And
right.
I don't know if he ever did change his email, but at least I had a chance to tell him something.
Well, I just have one last question, and that is we've spoken a lot from the beginning of this video to now about the directory. How do people access that directory that you're talking about?
Here's I got a copy here. Let me show it in front of you.
Yeah.
It's a paper directory. And what we do is we ship that out to you at U.S. Priority Mail from Central Florida. And what it's going to do, it depends on where you're at, but generally it's going to list about 75 to 80 of the higher quality companies that pay the higher fees that cover their service area. Okay. And it's got complete information on, not complete information, but very specific information on each company, on who to contact and what they do and where they're at, the type inspections they offer. Okay. And that's useful to you to have on your desk so you can make notes on it and put stickies on it, whatever.
Yeah.
But we also send everyone with the direct, we give them a little notebook and a pen so they can keep a log on their marketing, because that's very important. And then we have some bonus items that we give them online that are part of the directory. And one of those is we give them the database access to our inspector members, because that way they can network with other inspectors and other notaries. Some are notaries too.
Right.
So here, you're in Alabama, okay? So the way you would do it is you would look for an inspector, maybe it's also a notary, maybe a woman out in San Diego. And you call them up on your phone and you say, hello, this is Melissa. I'm here in Alabama and you're in San Diego. I'm an inspector and notary. We don't compete with each other because we're so far away from each other. Maybe I can share some information with you and maybe you could share some information with me. That works.
Yes.
Sometimes they'll hang up on you, but most times they won't.
Right.
And so that gives you a lot of choices, like 9,400. And you want to pick the ones that are very far away from you. And in your phone call, you want to say that we don't compete.
I'm in another state.
Yeah. I would even look it up sometimes, how far exactly I was, Google search, how far in miles I actually was away from someone in Seattle.
Right.
And so when I call them up, I say, yeah, we're so many miles away from each other. We don't compete. And, like I say, you'll find out so much more information that way. Maybe you're working for the same company. Maybe you're getting paid less than they are. Wouldn't you like to know that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what you do. It's all about networking. Companies do that. They do that all the time. The biggest multi-million-dollar companies are also out there marketing to everybody. And you've got to do the same. They have large parts of their company that are dedicated to marketing. For most notaries and field inspectors, it's just a one-person job. Okay. But you got to do it, or else you don't get work. And then when you get the work, you got to perform.
Right.
But if you take person A that's really great at marketing and kind of sloppy at performance, and then compare someone that's really great at performance and kind of sloppy at marketing, the person that's better at marketing will do better.
Yeah.
They'll make more money.
Yeah.
And marketing also gives you more choices. You want choices. You want lots of choices. And some inspectors and notaries are just kind of stuck in one rut and they don't know what's out there, you know?
Well,
And the only way you find out is you got to do the marketing.
Well, that's one of our goals at Notary Know How is, we want to help train people. We want to open their eyes to the opportunities that are out there and we want to help them. And, I know this wasn't on the script, but I just want to say I'm very impressed with you and your company, and you seem to care about people. To hear you say that, you'll talk to anybody and you'll share the information with them, whether they take it and run with it or not, you're happy to help. And I just think that speaks volumes about you as a person. And I think that that's wonderful that you do that.
Yeah, great. Well, like I say, we enjoy. I also like to brag a little bit about the Florida weather too when I get an opportunity.
I think all of us in Alabama would trade with you right now if we
Right.
could.
Yes.
It's cold.
Alabama's nice. I was, went through flight training up in Pensacola, which is pretty close to where you're at, right?
We're more central Alabama.
All right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
We're
you're
closer
near
to
the
Tennessee.
you're
Yeah.
near the big Air Force base there. Is it Eglin? Is it?
Is that in Montgomery? We're 2 hours north.
Yeah.
No, what's the Air Force base there in central Alabama?
Mm.
I didn't know we had one in central Alabama.
I was thinking Eglin. Does that sound familiar?
It does sound familiar.
It does
I don't
sound
know if
familiar.
that's Gadsden, Anniston area. If so,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
about an hour northeast of me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. Well, good. Well, good. If there's anything we can do for you, give me a call.
We appreciate it very much. And I guess, Dana, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, you all, thank you so much for being with us today on Tuesday's Table Talk with Mr. Richard Law of Sophie. And y'all have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And it was
Thank you.
very, very much of a pleasure talking to both of you.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye.